Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What is up, Los Angeles? Welcome into the LA Football Podcast here on the LA Football Network, always on the Believe Podcast Network. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, but you know that already because you're listening. You can also find us on video on YouTube at LAFB Network. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Certainly helps us out. Hit the alert so you know when all of our new shows or videos, we do film breakdowns and a bunch of other stuff on there. You will be notified. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of them at LAFB Network. You can find myself at Ryan Dyrud. LAFB got a great show for you tonight, joined by the great one, the coach with the most, with the great headband, a baker's dozen, we'll say. Coach Graff, what's up, man?
What's up, man? How you doing? Thank you again for having me on, as always. Looking forward to another great football chat with you, buddy. You're looking good. You're looking good. You're
looking great. I wanted to bring up last time your little headband, and it never fit in the conversation, but since I brought up the beginning, it looks great, dude. I mean, you look like Baker right now.
I mean, I'll take it as a compliment. Thank you. Yeah, it's new.
It's meant to be.
It's a new look for me. I'm growing the hair out, and I don't like it. It's super curly, gets in my face. So yeah, I'm a headband guy now. It's new, like I said, but we're getting used to it.
Was it did you ever wear headbands when you played football or anything, or no? This is literally something you adapted like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's probably worth within the last 6 weeks that it's gotten the length it is now, where I had to have a headband. And in high school, I never really wore it long. Not during football anyway. I wore it long for a little bit my sophomore year, but that was after football.
Okay. So my when I played high school ball, was it my sophomore season or junior season? One of those, somewhere, not my senior year, but grew my hair out, and I have the straightest hair. So it's like surfer hair, just like straight. And I would just do the nice little, this little guy to like get out of my face.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember at practice, and one of my coaches was giving me shit. Probably my offensive coordinator. He was kind of an asshole. And so we were at we called it Gorilla Mountain. It was basically like the Remember the Titans, their go away camp when they go by Gettysburg, they're the college up there. It was literally identical, but we went to this Christian camp. They had like cabins and stuff. It wasn't a college campus. We played on like a freaking dirt field. It was terrible. Anyway, being there, and finally I'm like, okay, I got to get this hair out of my face. So I got like one of those, a bandana, rolled it up, tied it, knotted it, and then I was sunshine for the rest of camp. But it worked. That kept it out of my eyes.
I mean, your OC may have been an a-hole, but man, that's probably pretty accurate. I could see it. Like that was probably a very warranted nickname.
Definitely, and I had a great camp, so I think that headband had something to do with it. That bandana, because
I'm telling you, I feel like a different person. I feel like a better man in the headband.
Yeah. Who else besides Baker? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. What Gardner
Mahomes
Minshew
wears one. Mahomes wears one.
That's true. Okay. I don't know why that didn't come to me. You're a Mahomes guy, obviously. So.
Yeah. Right. I don't know. Maybe that sunk into my subconscious a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's got really curly hair.
Herbert wears one.
You would know better than me. I don't know.
There's
probably quite a bit of them. Any of the guys with the longer hair probably sport one under the helmet.
I got it while we're on this topic of hair, and I got to say this about Justin Herbert. And I don't know if you've noticed now that you're not paying as much attention, but I think since you've been on the show more, you're going to start paying more attention again to LA football. But
sure,
he cut it week 3 or 4. I want to say is when he got that horrible haircut. Like he had the long locks.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when he got the haircut, right? Like I think his offensive line did it for him or something.
There was a meme. Right?
Yeah,
Didn't they make a meme out of it?
Yeah.
Then,
yes, we did. We did at LAFB. We made one. We made a wallpaper.
That may have been what I saw. Probably what I saw.
He is already like got it back and flowing. I mean, this guy must have the genetics of like a horse. The fact that I feel like my hair grows fast, but it hasn't even been. It's probably been 7 months since he cut it, and he like buzzed it, and now it is like long and flowing again. I'm like, all right.
Well, let's not forget this. He's what, 23, 24 maybe.
Yeah, 23, 24.
We're not there anymore. Let's see if he can do that when he's our age. Then
Yeah.
But no, good for him. That's good. That's probably why the shaving of the head wasn't a big deal to him, because he just knew in a few months it would be right back to where it was.
Yeah, and it looks gorgeous. Obviously, good for him.
Good for him.
I'm getting jealous, dude. Like, here, anyone watching on YouTube right now, like, I'm not wearing a hat. I usually wear a hat. I just got a haircut, and my hairline's receding. My forehead gets bigger and bigger every few months. I don't like it.
You look great. I've always been a fan of. I've always thought you look good. I've always thought you've done good things with your hair, and I know you're self-conscious of it. But dude, I think you're always rocking a nice hairdo wherever you go.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And you look good in a hat. So you know what? It doesn't matter what you're sporting. You're looking good.
All right. I guess this is the Make Ryan Feel Good podcast tonight, so I appreciate that. I'm never self-conscious about it, but I'm a realist. I'm like, I know I'm losing my youth. So
all right. Well, I kind of feel like I'm doing this in honor of you, because not everybody gets a head of hair, and I need to, flaunt it. I need to be able to share it with the world.
You have a great. Okay. Is the wife or the future wife going to make you cut it for the wedding, or is she allowing you to have it long for the wedding?
So I'm going in probably this week or next week just to trim it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's going to be long. Clean it up a little bit, and she is going to allow it to be long for the wedding, though.
Wow.
She likes it. She digs it.
Okay, well, that's good.
Well, at least she says she does. I believe her. I tend to believe her. She usually doesn't lie to me, but I don't know.
When me and my wife were dating, I used to buzz my hair just because it was easy. Back in college, I was like, cool, just roll out of bed. It was good.
Sure.
We dated with a buzz. As soon as we got serious, it's like, all right, you can't have a buzz. You got to grow it out. But then it's like, I can't have it too long. I got to have it. Basically, I have a month window of what my hair length can be, and she dictates that. And that's marriage. So feel lucky that you're allowed to do what you want.
Oh, I'm
We'll see if that changes in a month.
Well, I don't think it will. I don't think it will. It hadn't changed in 5 years, so I don't think that's
true. You guys have basically been married, so
yeah, I love it.
All right.
I love it.
Well, great show today, brought to you by betonline.ag. You know it well, your online wagering casino. They got the casino open. Plenty of prop bets for all the sports going on, NBA, NHL, in the playoffs. You can make future bets for the NFL. Who's gonna be rookie of the year? Who do you think's gonna be rookie of the year? Top of your head right now, go.
Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, that should be. That's the obvious one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't.
Heard he had 2 picks today in OTAs. Everyone freak out. So dumb. OTA reporting is like the dumbest thing ever. But yeah, so go to betonline.ag, go on mobile, on desktop. You get a 50% welcome bonus. If you haven't for some reason signed up yet, that's a nice benefit. If you have signed up yet, maybe just use a different email address. That was the hack I gave you last week. Why not? Sign up with a new email address, get that 50% bonus, win some money this week as we head into the summer, as California is opening back up in less than a week. June 15th. What are we, June 8th today? June 9th?
We are June 8th. Yes, June 8th.
So we are
June 9th in a couple hours.
So basically 6 days from our state finally fully reopening. So go to betonline.ag, win yourself some cash. You can go out and celebrate with friends and family at your local eateries, bars, and get back to normalcy and watch some sports. So
just a quick point on getting back to normalcy. This is just a random question, but I went to the grocery store today, and for the first time in a long time, I got to use those little item dividers for the conveyor belt.
Oh, the little the rectangle.
Yeah.
Okay.
We hadn't had to use those forever, and now they have them back out there now at Albertsons.
Oh, okay. I didn't think about it. I guess because literally everyone else had to wait before they even come to the register. You had to stand in the line in aisle 6.
Yeah.
All of you.
And they didn't even have them out, but now they have them out, and I used one. I don't know. It was just so little, but I was like, okay, yes.
Good call. Yeah,
right?
I wouldn't even think about that, but yeah, it's true. I still think it's funny. That's why I love doing shows with you, because we just get on these conversations. So those watching, if you hate us, let us know. If you like it, hey,
our wives hate us, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. I still thought that was funny. You'd go to a grocery store, and it's all about trying to keep everything separate, but then they would just have everyone hunker down in one aisle, 40 people deep, waiting in line to go pay. And yeah, they have the little stickers, but it's like you can only can only go so far when there's 40 people waiting. Like eventually you're kind of starting to stack up here. But then you have like 12 registers all with one person in them. So I always thought it was interesting.
It is,
Grocery stores were an interesting thing this whole last year. I saw people like pull their mask down, like breathe on apples and smell them and then put them back, but then put their mask back on. I'm like, okay, that kind of defeats the purpose, but
right. Yeah. At least take them. Come on.
Yeah. Just, okay. It's yours now.
Yeah. Right.
It should be yours before the pandemic. Like if you're grabbing an apple and breathe on it, don't put it back.
Right. Like we never really thought about how gross we lived before.
Like an orange is one thing because you're peeling it. You're not eating the peel. An apple, that's like what you're eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to rinse it off, but come on, guy or gal.
Come on, guy or gal.
Anyway, today's episode, we're going through some coaching rankings. We did an article, my good guy, Ryan Anderson for the LAFB network, did an article ranking Sean McVay among, here, I'll pull it up. How about that? Among the NFL coaches. And so I thought it'd be fun to get the coach on here. Since he's a coach, here you go. Here's his little article. You can all see here. And as he breaks down where McVay lands, I won't give it away. You got to head to LAFBnetwork.com to read that. But that'd be fun here now to get the coach and jump on and do our own rankings. We're going to do the Dyrud dozen, our top 12 coaches in the NFL today. Where does Sean McVay land? I'm assuming we didn't do any newcomers, so we won't really talk Brandon Staley, but I think at the end of the show, we'll talk about where we think he will end up projecting. I'll give you that to marinate with now, so I don't drop it on you at the end of the show. But yeah, this ranking will be, obviously seasoned coaches. But last thing before we get into that, this last weekend, LAFB Network and other people that we had on winners were able to go to SoFi Stadium, tour the stadium, see the suites, see the locker rooms, see the Corona Beach Club, whatever they call it.
Corona Beach.
Coach,
House.
you were there. Corona Beach what?
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
I think it's Corona Beach Club, yeah. You were there. What were your initial thoughts of SoFi?
I was blown away from this. And I'm not trying to speak hyperbolic, but the moment I walked in, I was truly blown away. I mean, it was just the screen they have in there, like you see it pretty much as soon as you walk in. It's just so ginormous and it kind of just grabs your attention. It is unlike anything I've ever seen before. There's just any game you see in the stadium is going to be a good experience just because of the design, the layout, and how well thought out the plans were for this stadium and with fans in mind and with teams in mind. And it's definitely the best stadium in the NFL. I'm not saying it's my favorite stadium in the NFL, but it is the best. And I'm super excited to get fans in there.
Oh, dude, yeah. So this picture that you're seeing, if you're watching it on YouTube, our background is a photo I took while we were there on Saturday afternoon, and it's just everyone says it, so it's cliche, but like photos don't do it justice. Like you have to see this place. It's a clear. I'm trying to think how I can break down just little bits of it. Obviously, the VIP experience of it is second to none. Like we were on the suite level and they had, whiskey bar, champagne bar, tequila bar, taco bar, burger joint, all this stuff where it's like, am I at a football game or, what are we doing here? But the seats, I mean, you go to a normal, especially, I don't know, I haven't been to a ton of domes, but I've been down to New Orleans, which is a dome. And typically even those domes, it's your typical ballpark seats. It's the hard plastic or
that's how Raymond James was in St. Louis.
Yeah. Or if you're at a outdoor venue, for sure, it's going to be the hard plastic, or it's even going to be the metal bench seating. These are like luxurious padded seats.
They're like plane seats or something.
Like Delta plane seats, not like Spirit or Frontier. Like we're talking higher quality, where you sit down and you're like, I'm at home basically. Yeah. So there's that little element to it. Obviously, you mentioned the Oculus, which is amazing. The way they designed the roof, which is a clear, transparent roof that lets the sun in, so you kind of get that heat almost a little bit. You get the look, but they designed it so you're still like shaded. You're not going to be like just blinded by like the sun. So you're at your seat and you're literally, shaded comfortably. it's an amazing venue. They talked part of the tour, how everything, and this is me and you, Coach, remember kind of talk about this a little bit, just how amazing the architects and engineers are, that everything was designed with a purpose. And obviously in California here, we have earthquakes. And so they literally designed it so the whole stadium can shift and wave and do this. If there ever was, God forbid, an earthquake, it's not going anywhere. It's literally the safest building like in Southern California.
Yeah. Crazy. That was pretty cool. And the fact that it has the fastest Wi-Fi in the world. There's no better internet access than in that stadium, and that kind of blew me away. That part was pretty cool to me. All the technological and the system and just the thought process and everything that they put into it. It's unbelievable, the technology that is within the stadium.
There's enough, they said, enough fiber optic wiring within the stadium to wrap around the world one time.
25,000 miles, I believe, is what they said.
That's insane.
Or 25,000. Yeah, something ridiculous. I wrote it down.
Insane. So it's for those of you that are planning on going to a game, get excited. For those of you that are still thinking about it, even if you're out of state and you're like, is it worth the travel? Yes, get a ticket. Even though they're maybe probably higher price now, because I think most Rams and Chargers games have actually sold out, which is great. Good job, LA fans. Love to see that. And if you are an LA fan and you're thinking about selling, please sell to another LA fan. Let's try to keep these games home friendly and not I'll get all these stupid narratives in here about away fans, which it's going to happen because like we're talking about the stadium, like people want to come see this place. It's a mecca. People are going to travel to see it no matter who they're a fan of.
Dude, the stadium itself is a draw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Like football stadiums in itself, like I love football stadiums. My goal is to one day visit all of them. I've been to a lot of awesome stadiums, but this is unlike any other stadium. You go to other stadiums for like the history and to watch a football game. This, you come to like see the stadium.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty remarkable, but what they've been able to accomplish.
Yeah. Crazy. So check it out. They do still have tours if you guys wanted to do it. I think SoFiStadium.com is the website. You can actually do a tour for yourself. But it was a blast. We had 20 people representing the LA Football Network, all hanging out, throwing footballs on the field. So it was a blast. So, Coach, I'm glad you were a part of that. And I'm just excited to watch some live football there. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into some coaching rankings, shall we?
We shall.
All right. This NFL coaching rankings is brought to you by Garrison Brothers Whiskey. I promise you a bottle, Coach. I haven't got it to you yet, but I promise you're going to love it because it is just delightful.
I know you're good for it. I know you're good for it.
It's going to happen. So, of course, we just talked about seeing each other 3 days ago, and I did not bring one down for you, but it's going to happen. I'll get it for you. But for those listening, there'll be a link in the description where you can go to, but you can find it at Total Wine, Bevmo, or order it directly from GarrisonBros.com. But if you just go to the link right below, wherever you're listening, if you're on podcast platform or video platform, you can go there and order it. It's fantastic. But distilled in Texas, high Texas. It's where it's from. All of its products are taken from Texas, but they're growing their presence here in California. It's been compared to Pappy Van Winkle, which is an unbelievable whiskey that runs upwards of $1,500 to $2,000. Garrison Bros is going to be a fraction of the price, but you get that same profile and taste. So make sure to check out my friends at Garrison Bros. Link below. Check them out. All right, Coach. Here we go into our rankings. Do you want to? We're going to go backwards. The Dyrud dozen. Top 12 coaches in the NFL, starting with 12. You want to go? Yeah, you go first. You're the guest.
I went Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers. Man, look, the dude got the team to a Super Bowl once. But outside of that, he's failed to go above 500. I think 6-10 a couple times. And then this past year, I think we're even worse. 6-10 in 2020, and then 13-3, and then 4-12 and 6-10. You take out that 13-3, that's not good. That's a fireable, tenure. So, and I know they've dealt with injuries and all that, but those are excuses, man. And everybody deals with that kind of stuff. But Kyle Shanahan, for me, this is a really big year for him. I'm glad you brought him up, because I did want to talk about him.
I don't have him in my top 12. He is, I like Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a great offensive mind. Cool dude. Players seem to love him. I don't think he's a bad NFL coach, but I think he's way overrated, in my opinion. And everything you just said, 3 losing seasons. He does it the 1 Super Bowl. So I don't have him in my top 12, just because I don't have him that far down. Like I wouldn't have him like in the bottom. Because I do think he is that good of an offensive mind, but we've seen now, obviously he was an offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, but he was in charge solely of the offense. And I think he was very responsible for that loss to the Patriots that come back, the way that he changed their game plan in that second half. And then same thing. Obviously, you're playing you go from playing Tom Brady to Mahomes. You're playing 2 very good quarterbacks, but same thing. His Niners, he's the head coach of, had a lead and he blew it. The offense sputtered, couldn't do anything. I think Mahomes probably would have beaten almost anyone that year. They were just that good. But I think that falls on the coach. And that's something to say about his coaching tactics that he does that. Let me ask you this, Coach. Without researching too much, and obviously we know that this one coach is no longer employed, but Doug Peterson, Kyle Shanahan, who's the better coach in your opinion?
Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan.
I think most would agree with you. What's crazy, Doug Peterson has a better record and has a Super Bowl win, not a Super Bowl loss, in the same amount of time. I think he had one more season. I think he was hired the year before Shanahan, if I'm not mistaken. And he's now unemployed. I think that's kind of crazy. I'm not saying he shouldn't be unemployed because it turned bad quick in Philadelphia. But it's crazy that he has a winning record. So not only a better record than Kyle Shanahan, a winning record. Kyle Shanahan's is like a terrible record, and a Super Bowl win against Brady, who Kyle Shanahan's lost to, with Nick Foles as his quarterback. Interesting.
It is. And Peterson for me is an enigma. I have some very deep-rooted feelings for Doug Peterson, and they're not good ones. But, yeah, whatever. I don't know. We don't need to get into that. I get fired up over Doug Peterson, but yeah, 100%. I would pick almost any coach over Doug Peterson.
Okay, so you had a little deep-seated hate there that I don't know. I don't know if I would, but again. So, okay, let me ask you this before I move on. Is it because of his ending tenure with the Chiefs or just what happened in Philly at the end of his tenure?
Yeah, I think the Philly stuff. And again, this is on me. I don't really know the whole story. And again, I just know from what I've read and what seemed to have happened in that game where the quarterback change happened and all this stuff came out
last season. Yeah.
That's what did it for me. That for me, it just seemed like and excuse me, folks, but he just seemed like he took a shit on the entire sport and the entire industry of coaching. And to me, there's no going back from that. There's an integrity that comes with coaching. And when you take that away from the job, that's an unforgivable sin for me. But but maybe I probably took it harder and more seriously than some other people, but yeah, just for me, Doug Peterson is forever tainted.
Yeah, no. The end of the tenure was bad, and was a fireable offense, and that's why he was fired. So, I agree with you. And obviously, I'm not putting Peterson in my rankings. He's not even a coach right now. He's sitting on the sidelines. But I just find that interesting that, it's hard because obviously I cover the Rams, so I now root for the Rams after covering them for a long time, and
sure.
I have interest in their success. And so there's obviously the rivalry with the 49ers. There's the rivalry with Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, who were hired in the same hiring cycle. And obviously Shanahan's had McVay's number. But aside from that, and aside from the one season, it's hard for me to wrap my head around why he's considered one of, and I think where you have him is fine. 12 is fine. I don't have him 12. I have him probably a few spots lower. But there's people that have him as like a top 5 coach, top 7 coach, top 8 coach. And I'm like, why? I don't really understand why that is. Maybe a top 5 offensive mind. Yeah, I could agree with that.
Sure.
And head coach, and I hear people say like, oh, he's got his players, best interest and stuff. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. There was a game because people like to take these narratives, right? They see things for a coach they don't like, and they'll point all their bad stuff. And a coach they do like, they'll ignore all that. There was a game George Kittle had the opportunity to break the single receiving record. I don't even think it was for a tight end, for just a receiver. I think it could be, maybe it was a tight end receiver, but it was a historical long record that he was like 15 yards short of. And Kyle Shanahan like took him out of the game and didn't like, I know he didn't probably do it like maliciously, but someone that's like building him up like, oh, is he a team guy? I'm like, you know, a player that could have just broken this league-wide record that hasn't been touched in forever, and you just change the game plan not to involve him anymore? Like, why is that not told? And it's always only the good stuff. I don't know. There's this weird just love for Kyle Shanahan.
I don't know. See, that doesn't bother me at all.
No, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all, but I just think it's funny that people say one thing but ignore other things.
But see, but taking Kittle out and all that, like, I don't see that as a knock on Shanahan at all. Why would that be a knock on him?
Well, I'm just saying because people will build up that he's like this.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I don't have a problem with that at all.
I see what you're saying.
I'm on board.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever.
Okay, I'm on board.
I think they were winning pretty big, so they need to throw the ball. Yeah, I have no problem with it. I'm just saying when people ignore that and say, "Oh, he's always does what's best for his players," but it's like, well, you also just had a player that could have broken a record, and you decided just, no, I'm going to take him out, not play him anymore.
I got you. Yeah, if you're going to mention the good, mention the bad. I got you.
Anyway, I think he's a good guy. Nothing against him. I don't really get the hype all the time. So, but this is a big year for him. You're right. I mean, this last thing on him, because we're spending way too much time on him. We got 12 of these guys.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
This is what we do.
If the Niners this year, who already have like 3 big injuries, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they have not fired their like training staff, which is insane. If the Niners this year miss the playoffs, let's not even say they like are horrible. They missed the playoffs. Is he on the hot seat now, or is he?
I think if he missed the playoffs, I think I think he gets fired.
Okay, you think?
If I'm in that position with the team that you have on the field and your head coach is in his 5th year and you're not making the playoffs now, and now this is becoming the trend. Yeah, it's time to make a change. There's no reason this team doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
That'd be, and they're in probably arguably the toughest division, but it's that there's no excuse for not making
I'd be
the playoffs.
curious if he will be, because it seems like him and John Lynch obviously are, kind of tight at the hip. I think Shanahan was actually hired before Lynch, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe he had say in his hiring. But anyway, I agree. He should be on the hot seat if this season goes as planned, but we'll see. All right, my 12. We're just on my 12. Yeah, we're gone.
God, ridiculous. We're ridiculous.
So we were talking pre-show, and you nailed the exact scenario. I'll just tell you that. What you said. You nailed the exact scenario. So my 12, I put Kevin Stefanski, which might be a little premature, but he was the, rookie coach of the year, whatever the award they call. Or I think just coach of the year is what he got, just coach of the year. But it was his first season. But, brought the Browns to the playoffs, took the Chiefs to the brink. We saw Baker be Baker again after the really bad year with Freddie Kitchens, which was just the worst hire in sports history that I can think of, or one of them up there. But yeah, I love Kevin Stefanski when he's in Minnesota, kind of runs that Kubiak style system, Kubiak, Shanahan, all those kind of tie in together. But just seems like a good coach. It's again, might be premature because it's only a year in, but I think 12 is fair for what he did to an organization that hasn't had success in 3 or 4 decades. And the fact that he brought them to that prominence when he's been given a very good roster. Yes. But there were coaches before him that had a pretty good roster too and still couldn't win. And he was able to turn that corner and bring to the playoffs and win a playoff game, almost win a second one to go to the AFC Championship game. And I think, roster to roster, Browns, Chiefs, they're pretty damn close. So it comes down to, obviously Mahomes is better than Baker, but it comes down to who's going to outcoach the other, Stefanski or Reed, when it comes to the AFC. And I like Stefanski right now. Not over Reed, but I like Stefanski where he's at in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. We'll get to him later.
Oh, so you have him higher. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I have him quite a bit higher, actually.
I love him, but I just, after 1 year, it was hard for me to go higher than that.
Sure. And I'll get into my reasoning, of course, when I get into it. But my 11 was Matt LaFleur for the Packers. Mm-hmm. Another new guy. I think this was his 3rd year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think, 2nd or 3rd, yeah.
Yeah. So, but and granted, he had one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He came into one of the better situations in the league. Like the Packers didn't need a lot of work when he got there. But yet he's taken them almost to a Super Bowl every single year, it feels like. So, yeah, man, you got Aaron Rodgers, but clearly he's not the easiest to deal with.
He had Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if he still does.
Yeah, he had Aaron Rodgers. Good point. But yeah, so for me, yeah, a lot of the same things you said about Stefanski, I feel like that with LaFleur. Even though I have Stefanski higher, LaFleur still has more to prove to me than Stefanski, because now let's see what he does without Aaron Rodgers. Let's see how good of a coach you are now. So I have him at 11 because he has accomplished a lot for a coach. And I mean, it's not easy doing what he did, even with the roster. But so for me, I'm going to put him right there at 11.
Yeah, I think that's I don't have him in my top 12, but again, he'd be right outside of it. 26-6 record. This is going into his third season. So obviously had good success. 2 postseason wins. Obviously one against our Rams last year. In dominating fashion actually against the number 1 defense in the NFL, and he's an offensive guy, and they showed out. So you got to give credit to him. I like LaFleur. Obviously he's from that. I don't know what tree you call him. He came up with Shanahan and McVay, so they all were kind of buddy. I think McVay has called him one of his best friends. So they run similar offenses, but I like him. I think he's a solid coach. The reason why I just don't have him is just the Aaron Rodgers effect. I think I have Stefanski because we saw Baker show flashes his rookie year. We saw him fall flat on his face his second year with Freddie Kitchens, and we saw, because of Stefanski, him almost become reborn. Whereas Matt LaFleur just joined a Hall of Famer, that not just a Hall of Famer, probably a top 5 QB of all time. And did he elevate his game? Maybe. He didn't hinder his game, obviously, but very good coach. I just couldn't have him in there. I guess I'm playing that QB card that he inherited.
Sure. No, and completely understandable. Yeah.
So my 11, I put Frank Reich. I'm a huge Frank Reich fan. Obviously, we saw, and this probably maybe goes back to a little bit of Doug Peterson, like we were talking about. We saw the fall of the Eagles once Frank Reich left. And let me say this too: if I'm a Colts fan, you should be thanking the heavens that Josh McDaniels pulled out prematurely for whatever reason he did, and then you ended up landing Frank Reich because of that. I just think he's a great human being, a good leader. Obviously he heralded one of the greatest NFL comebacks of all time for the Buffalo Bills. And now I think he's a very good coach for your Colts. He's good with quarterbacks. We saw him, win games with Jacoby Brissett. We saw last year with Phillip Rivers. And now we're going to see, we're going to see him resurrect Carson Wentz's career and them have a very great bond. And Carson Wentz is going to be the quarterback that I loved 3 years ago, who I thought was a top 5 QB then. I'm going to stand on that hill until it's dead. He's still going, and it's because Frank Reich. So, Chris Ballard's probably one of the top GMs in the NFL. I know he comes from your Chiefs organizations, so he's obviously given him a great personnel. They just have, great drafts every year since they've both been there. And he's given him a lot of weapons to deal with, but, someone's still got to make that go. Someone's got to make that engine run. And I think Frank Reich does a good job of that. And obviously he built a good staff, Matt Eberfluss as his defensive coordinator, who was a hot name in the head coaching circle last year. So I'm a big Frank Reich guy. I love him.
Yeah, I like Reich too. And if I were to move anybody off and put someone in, it would be Reich. So I guess you could say he's my 13. But yeah, I like him. Everything you said, he's a good guy, and he took over a situation that nobody was happy about. And that's tough to do, and he's still there, and he's done a really good job. So yeah, he's a good coach, and I respect the hell out of him. Yeah.
Who I'm trying to remember, he took over for Chuck Pagano, right? Was that who?
Oh, like when he retired, you mean? Yeah. Or not retired, but left it. Well,
fired.
Well, okay, whatever. When he left the Colts, I'm thinking of Arians when he had cancer, but that's something completely different.
Yeah. Pagano had cancer. Arians stepped in.
Right.
Arians got hired by the Cardinals. Yeah. Pagano came back as the head coach.
And then he left.
Got fired, and now he's the Bears defensive coordinator.
Right.
We put it together. We pieced it together. So
we did.
All right. Your 10.
My 10, Pete Carroll. I know he's gotten some scrutiny over the last few years, but man, he's year in, year out, I feel like the Seahawks are going to fall off, but yet they never really do. And that has to be because of Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson and the job that the GM has done. I forget his name. Carlson, I think is his name, maybe?
John Schneider.
Schneider, I was close.
You're thinking of that kid Carlson in draft day. That's what you're thinking of.
That's probably. But no, Carroll is an old school guy. He's, his first tenure in the NFL obviously didn't go great with the Jets. He was very successful with USC. And he's been successful with the Seahawks ever since he took over, 2010, 2009? I'm not sure when he went there. But but man, he's obviously been to Super Bowls. He's kept the Seahawks relevant his entire tenure there. And a lot of that has to do with Wilson. A lot of that has to do with the defense that they've had and his coordinators. But man, that just goes to show that everything that has happened over the Seahawks tenure, the one common denominator is Pete Carroll. So he is a good coach. Like, I know people don't like him, and I know he rubs people the wrong way, but the dude knows what he's doing. He knows football. He's a player's coach. Every single player that has played for him seems to love him. And that's not an easy thing to do, like get your players to buy in. And Pete Carroll seems to do that. So for me, everything he's done in the past and stuff gets me. He's a top 10 guy.
Totally. I have him higher than that, so I'll talk more on later. But yeah, I have him higher than that. So, but I agree with everything you said. So, my 10, I wrestled with this one too, and I have him at 10. I wrestled with having him out of my top 12, out of the Dyrud dozen. But I put him at 10 because I think what he's accomplished in a short time and what they've built, he deserves credit for. And that's Sean McDermott, the coach of the Buffalo Bills, former defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. They went in with a plan. Him and, their GM, they drafted Josh Allen, had 2 rough years right off the bat, but they stuck with it. They kept building the defense up. He's a defensive guy. And they just, kind of stuck with the plan. They didn't, get nervous or he was never on the hot seat. It was just like, hey, let's keep chopping wood. Let's keep stacking bricks. And, last year they ended up being one of the powerhouses in the NFL. Like, when the last time we said the Browns and the Bills were 2 powerhouses in the AFC? And I think a lot of that is because of Sean McDermott. He's stability in that locker. He made some very questionable calls his first year, I want to say, when they had Tyrod Taylor. I'm trying to think, I think that was his first year. Yeah, Tyrod Taylor, and then he benched him for Nate Peterman, and then put back Tyrod Taylor. But since then, he's been real kind of, stringent on this line, the trajectory that they're going on. And obviously, Josh Allen made a huge jump forward. A lot of that's, credited to his offensive coordinator and his QB coach and his own offseason stuff. But yeah, I just think Sean McDermott, I think he's a good, sound, solid coach that isn't really recognizable. He's not like the flashy Sean McVay, the flashy Kyle Shanahan, but he's a good coach, and he's made the Bills a contender, and they're, for the foreseeable future, they're going to be one of the teams to beat in the AFC, which is strange to say, and that's because of Sean McDermott.
Yeah, and I have him a lot higher in my list, so I'll touch on him later as well.
Okay, you're making a face like you're like, I thought you were surprised I had him on my list. So okay,
I'm surprised you had him so low.
So low, okay.
Yeah, that's what threw me.
Okay.
So as close as our player rankings were, our coaching list seems
very different.
Yeah,
very different. Yeah.
So my number 9 is Mike Tomlin with Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Similar to Carroll, just the long tenured guy. It's hard to keep a job in the NFL now, and it seems like he's one of those few that is just the face of the franchise, and that's Tomlin for the Steelers. He's gotten them to multiple Super Bowls. He's gotten them a Super Bowl ring, and in Pittsburgh, that's a big deal. But he's dealt with a lot of very difficult characters. He's dealt with Antonio Brown for multiple years. He's dealt with Le'Veon Bell. He's dealt with Big Ben Roethlisberger. There's been a lot of guys come through under him that really have been hard to manage, but he did it, and he did it well, and he's been successful in winning with those guys. So, yeah, Tomlin, he seems like one of those dudes that you like. He'll be your best friend as long as you respect him and honor his wishes. But man, if you cross him, you do not want to show up to the office. Like I respect guys like that can harbor both relationships with players. Like you love them like a father, but you fear them like like a preacher. It's one of those. So I like Mike Tomlin, and I think he's still the guy for Pittsburgh, and we'll see what he can do with this different Pittsburgh team that we're not really used to seeing with a really old quarterback and young receivers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like Mike Tomlin too. And, the Steelers are such a funny organization. They've had like 3 coaches in the last, 40 years or something the stat is, which is insane that how well they've hired and the longevity and the trust they put in those guys. I'll say a few more things. I have Tomlin a little higher, not a ton higher. But yeah, everything you said, I agree with it. His biggest attribute, I think, is just the model of leadership about, handling. You hear in this today, I feel like today's NFL is the guru. Like, who's the next offensive guru, defensive guru? In like the 90s, it was like, who's the best manager? Who can manage personalities and who can lead men and who can be a disciple, if you will, and that's Tomlin to a T. I don't know if he's some guru in this instance or whatever compared to some of these other coaches that we're going to talk about here probably in a minute, but out of someone that can just manage personalities, he's probably top 3 on this list. And I think too, when I was going over I didn't give you any preface, but I know when I'm going over these lists, you can kind of look at it differently. You can look at ranking which coach I want right now leading my team, or looking at the coaches currently hired and their longevity and what they've done. Where would you rank them? So I kind of looked more like that, because some of these guys I might have higher. I wouldn't necessarily want them right now leading my team into the future compared to some of the other younger guys, but I would look at what they've done. I'm like, yeah, they deserve to be in this top ranking. So I'll preface that. I probably should have said that ahead of time, but okay. So I'm on 9, correct?
Have you done your 10?
Yes, Sean McDermott was my 10. So
okay, then yeah, you're 9. I'm sorry, you're 9.
Mike Tomlin was your 9, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you're on 9.
So my 9, and I'm curious if this is one that you don't have on your list or if you have higher again. I put Mike Vrabel at 9.
I thought about him, but no, he is not on my list.
Okay, so another one I kind of wrestled with, but I just think what he's created in Tennessee. They have this kind of demeanor now of being smash mouth football, tough. I think the decision he made 2 years ago, mid-season, to bench Marcus Mariota and start Ryan Tannehill, and all of a sudden Tannehill now is by some considered a top 10 quarterback, but at the very least, I would say probably top 15, very efficient the way he does. And we'll see this year, obviously, without Arthur Smith, how they adapt and how they do things. But Mike Vrabel being the guy that, runs that and orchestrates it. His defense was subpar last year, which is kind of his MO, but still a playoff team. And it's something that he's helped build, and they were not a good team when he got there. And now they're kind of the model of consistency in that AFC South, and a team that can contend year in and year out. And you just know, no matter what their record is, since he's been there, they're going to be a tough team to play. And that's kind of, he brought that from his playing days and his mantra, and he still looks like he can freaking put the helmet on and suit up and go, plug a few holes for, 4 downs. So, yeah, I respect the guy. I think he's done good things, and I like when you see these players turn coaches that actually are successful, and I think he's had good success so far.
Yeah, I like Weber. Like I said, I thought about him, considered him, but yeah, I just don't think he's done enough. And I know he's, had been in the playoffs and done, some good things. And I do like him, but I don't know. He's just not there yet for me.
All right. That's fair. So on to your 8.
So my 8, perk up, Rams fans. Let me hear it. I'm sure you're going to disagree with this, but I'm going to say Sean McVay. This is where I have him.
Okay. At 8.
Pretty
low.
Well, yeah, he's gone to a Super Bowl. Granted, that's tough to do. But I don't want to. I'm not ready to buy in 100% to the Sean McVay is the longevity type of coach hype. I just want to. I want to see if his type of coaching, if his style, if his scheme, if his
all of this, if it works for the long haul, or if it's just kind of I don't want to call it a flash in the pan because I hate that term. I'm not going to do that. But I just don't know if it's built to build a dynasty, or if it's just built to win for 4 or 5 years, and then okay, now we need to kind of scrap things and get a fresh start. But we'll see. I think McVay is one of those guys that is a very big players coach. He's obviously got that cool new modern generation factor, whatever you want to call it. But and he's been successful. But I just don't know if I don't want to call him an elite coach because he's not an elite coach. He's gotten to that Super Bowl, but that Super Bowl, everything was offense for the Rams. And then you get to the Super Bowl and you're playing against one of the best defensive coaches in history, and your offense gets absolutely shut down. And you can say the same thing about the Chiefs, I guess. But I don't know. For McVay, I just don't think he's been around long enough. Kind of the same thing about Shanahan. But that's why I have him ranked higher than Shanahan, because he's been successful in the broader scope of things. And even though Shanahan is, 1 versus 1, a little bit better than McVay, overall McVay's been better. So at this point, I'm going to rank McVay higher, than Shanahan. But overall, he's I think this is the highest he can be put.
All right. I want to let you finish, but I strongly disagree.
And you know what? You're probably going to take me to school, because if anybody knows McVay, it's you. So let's go. Chat me up.
No, and I respect it, absolutely. But I just think what he's – okay, let's break this down to a few parts. So first off, inherits a 4-12 football team.
Sure. First
season with pretty much the exact same roster. I mean, their skill guys were Jared Goff coming into his second year after a horrible rookie season. Todd Gurley in his third year. They had, I think they may have added Brandon Cooks was their only addition. But they had everyone else was there from the year before, if I'm not mistaken. And they go, I think 13-3 or 12-4 in that first year, make the playoffs. So just seeing that huge turnaround, and then the sustainability now from that. So immediately takes over a 4-12 team, makes it a playoff team. And then since then, in 4 seasons, missed the playoffs once, but was still a winning season. They went 9-7. So 0 losing seasons, all 4 winning seasons, where I know Kyle Shanahan now 3 losing seasons. So that's where he's I think way better than that. Third thing, and this, you could blame the league, you can blame whoever you want, but he's the only coach I can think of in this time period, aside from maybe Andy Reid, who has to deal with the coach turnover every single year, getting plucked. He's lost his QB coach every single year. Didn't have an OC coach or an offensive coordinator. That was Matt LaFleur, who got taken. He's lost offensive line coaches. He's lost defensive coordinators. So the turnover, and then to still be successful, even when you bring in new coaches to buy into your culture, buy into your scheme. He inherited his quarterback, who really didn't fit exactly what he wanted to do, but still won 4 years in a row, winning season, 3 playoff appearances, Super Bowl appearance. And now he gets the quarterback he wants in Matthew Stafford. I just think in those 4 years, what he's done, what he's accomplished, what he's almost changed the league, the fact that I think 3 coaches under him are now head coaches in Zach Taylor, Matt LaFleur, and maybe it's just those 2. There might be one more, but I think maybe it's just those 2. But still, 2 guys that he brought over now are head coaches under his tutelage.
Oh, Staley is who you're thinking of.
Brandon Staley. There you go. So, yeah, 3 guys. I don't know. I just think it's unparalleled. And, yeah, he has a ways to go, I think, to prove that consistency and longevity. But in 4 short years, and not to beat you down here, but if you're going to have a guy like Sean McDermott ahead of him, which, because we said earlier, you are, and McDermott, 2 years of unsuccess, then now we're seeing 2 years of success, but we're not seeing any coaching turnover. That he's basically been able to be consistent. I can't have him over Sean McVay, because Sean McVay's had to deal with way more and still has more success than him.
So where do you have McVay?
I have him at 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, he's a good coach. But the whole turnover thing, and I get it. I'm sure he may have experienced it more in his short tenure than most people do, but dude, coaching turnover is going to be wherever you go. And it doesn't matter It matters, but it doesn't matter, right? Like,
no, and it's not an excuse, but I think it does say that it's him. It's not like because there's definitely some head coaches that lose a player or lose a coach, and there's a little drop off. Like, how like Doug Peterson, how much of that was Frank Reich, and obviously he's no longer employed. Sean McVay hasn't missed a beat when he's lost all these guys. So that you can say, like, this is Sean McVay's team. This is his style. This is his culture. This is what he's built. It's not predicated on any assistance. We'll see this year now with losing Brandon Staley, who I think is one of the best up-and-coming guys who we'll get to later, but we'll see.
Yeah, and we can't forget who his defensive coordinator was the first year or two he had. Wade Phillips cannot go unspoken about when it comes to McVay's development as a head coach.
100%. And that's why he brought him in. He needed someone to help him 100%. Develop as a head coach. So,
and McVay's a hell of a coach. I'm not saying he's not. I mean, hell, I have him in my top 10 NFL current head coaches. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. For me, everything he's done and everything I've seen, and I mean, Todd Gurley, maybe that's what it is. I feel like he mismanaged Todd Gurley.
That I agree with. He's made mistakes for sure.
And I think that taste is still in my mouth. I think that's what maybe when I did this list, I don't know. I just feel like there's certain game day management where I just disagree with, and I don't know. He needs to show that he can fix that.
Well, I've talked tons of times on this podcast about, specifically last year when the Rams ran the ball 30 plus times, they were literally like undefeated, and then they would go games where they decided to run it 15 times, and then they would lose. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this works. I know you guys you do your analytics and you look at what plays are successful in this. Like, you're much smarter than I am. Why are you getting away from this to your quarterback that can't throw? So there is definitely frustrating tendencies that he has shown, I think, overall. But anyway, let's move on to, I guess, my 8. I'll talk more about McVay when we get to 4. Well, I guess I don't really have to talk too much more since I basically hit it all. At 8, I have Bruce Arians. Probably could have gone a little higher. He's obviously older among coaches, but has a less, he's got a huge resume. He's been coaching forever, but as a head coach, I guess a shorter resume just with the Cardinals and now the Bucks. Inherited a good team, got the GOAT on there, but someone's got to manage it and make it work, and he did. And he's a player's guy. He obviously is super instrumental in diversity and bringing on these great coaching staffs that maybe some other coaches don't give opportunity to, and he's been kind of known for that his entire career, which I respect the hell out of. A great offensive mind, fun guy, loves whiskey. I've heard stories. Frostee played for him. I've heard stories that I won't share right now, but stories about the guy that just make you say, that guy sounds like a fun guy to be on a plane ride with. BA's great. I have him at 8.
Perfect segue because I have him at 7. So he's coming off of a fresh Super Bowl win, but his first year there, they were fine. Jameis Winston had that huge interception year he had, and they
30 for 30, baby.
30 for 30. And they struggled a little bit, failed to make the playoffs, but then obviously you get Tom Brady and everything changes. Tom Brady makes a lot of people look good, and not to say that Tom Brady made Bruce Arians, because Bruce Arians was a made man well before Tom Brady ever got on his roster. So, and I respect Bruce Arians a lot. He's a very successful coach. He's overcome a lot of adversity, and he's been successful at every stop. He took over Pagano, like we said earlier, at Indy during this cancer scare and diagnosis, and then in Arizona, he was very successful there in a franchise that you could name probably 2 or 3 head coaches that have been successful. So,
if that,
and then he comes to Buccaneers and gets them their second Super Bowl. So, Bruce Arians is a good head coach, and he's obviously a lot better on the sidelines than he is in the booth. So, I mean, I respect him, and I just think this is a good spot for him.
Yeah, he's a guy that was an offensive guy, quarterback guy, worked with Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Carson Palmer, obviously now Tom Brady. List goes on and on and on, and he adapted from that and became a head coach. I said earlier, so many new coaches are like gurus in some aspects, but are they good head coaches? Like, can they manage a full team? And he went from an offensive-minded guy, a guru, if you will, and he still is, but he's able to now manage his team as a whole. And, I mean, we saw last year, like, he called out Tom Brady. Bill Belichick never did that, but BA did. Said, yeah, he's going to play a hell of a lot better. Can't throw that interception. No one does that to the GOAT. BA did, and, they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So, touche.
Yes, sir.
My 7. So I have Mike Tomlin at 7. You basically said everything, why he's great, the longevity. He gets a lot of hate, I feel like, and I don't really understand it. Like, I know the Steelers are a team that I know last year specifically they had a pretty soft schedule when they were undefeated, whatever they were, 11-0 before they lost like 3 straight or something like that. It's still the NFL. And yeah, they weren't one of the top teams, but you still got to coach every week. You got to play every week. You're still 11-0. He's done it now for whatever he's been there, 10, 11, 12 years. You mentioned all the crazy personalities he had to deal with. I don't really understand the hate he gets. I think he's a for sure top 10 coach. Like I said, I have him at 7, obviously, but the fact that there's people that think he's out of the top 10, needs to be fired or this. I get when an organization gets to a point where you need a fresh start and move on. I get that. But to say he's not a top 10 coach, people I don't think they know football if you say that.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's just because the bar feels like it's so high in Pittsburgh, and he's been there so long, and with one ring, it just doesn't feel right. Like you feel like he should have more, maybe. And they've had some really good teams there, so yeah. I mean, I think that's warranted to think that Pittsburgh should probably have a little bit, more than one with Tomlin. But I agree. He's a great coach.
Yeah. So I think 7's a good spot for him. So all right, 6 for you.
So I went Sean Payton. With the Saints. Another guy I have a lot of respect for. I forget what season it was, but he got suspended, and he has that, asterisk on his career now.
Oh, yeah. I kind of forgot about that he was actually suspended an entire season.
Yeah. So there's a black eye on his resume, on his Wikipedia page, whatever. So, but still, and I think for me, the job he did when or not, just him, but the job that he spearheaded when Breeze was out, and the fact that they were able to win games with Taysom Hill as their starting quarterback, says a lot about the coaching staff, says a lot about the job that Peyton can do, and the fact that he's been to a couple Super Bowls, he's won one, right? They've been to 2. Didn't they lose one, or did they only been to 1?
I think just been to 1.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right, because they've lost those tragic.
Beat the Colts, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They beat the Colts in the Super Bowl, and then they've just had that string of tragic playoff losses where you feel like that a lot of those, at least 2 of those teams, you would look back on and say that was probably the best team in the league that year.
Oh, for sure.
But
even last year,
arguably last year, that was at least the NFC. But yeah, man, so for them to be that good, and Drew Brees has a lot to do with that as well. But Sean Payton is a hell of a coach, and his accomplishments cannot go unstated.
Yep. Yeah, I have him 1 spot up from you. So you're at 6, right?
5. Yeah, 6. I'm sorry, 6.
Okay, yeah. So I have him at 5. And yeah, everything you said, great coach. Obviously, he was able to get one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but there's still, you still got to coach. They've put together good rosters on the off. I know he has a lot of say to in GM relegations and stuff like that. And there's a reason, and this is 2 differences of, I guess, how you look at head coaches too. He's a guy, which is interesting to me. We talked about Sean McVay earlier. His coaching staff really hasn't been, he's had the same offensive coordinator. I think his name's Carmichael is his offensive coordinator.
Sounds right, yeah.
It's been the same guy for like a decade. And Joe Lombardi just finally got hired by the Chargers, who's been twice removed, like with the Saints organization. So it's interesting that side of the coin, what he's built in New Orleans, but no one plucks from him. And then you see it, guys like Sean McVay, where everyone's plucking everyone if they like breathe near the guy. And I don't have a reason for it. I don't really understand why it is. It's interesting, but all that being said, Sean Payton's a phenomenal coach, and that's why I'm at 5.
Yeah, 100%.
So I had it 6, just so I get my 6. I had Pete Carroll. I love Pete Carroll mainly because of his USC roots. I know, I'm a Rams guy and he's coach of the Seahawks, but I love him back when his USC days. But I think what makes Pete Carroll so great, and everyone will contribute a lot of his greatness to Russell Wilson, but you can make that you can do that with any coach, really. Like we just talked about Sean Payton. He's had Drew Brees' whole career. Bill Belichick's had Tom Brady. Whoever coached Green Bay, whether it's Mike McCarthy, now Matt LaFleur, you got Aaron Rodgers. Like we can make that argument for a lot of coaches. But Pete Carroll came in first 2 years, 7-9, hasn't had a losing season since. He's had he's had 11 seasons of winning football seasons in Seattle. And a lot of that's because of Russell Wilson. A lot is because of the defense, who he's had to hire many different coaches because those coaches get plucked and get hired into head coaching positions. Gus Bradley, Dan Quinn, to name a few. And they just are continually I feel like every year, at least in the past 5 or 6, there are teams like they had a horrible draft. They had nothing in free agency. They're going to be the bottom of the NFC West. And every year they're in contention to make the playoffs. And that's because of the duo of Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, who's a true head coach. I wouldn't say he's an offensive guru, a defensive guru. I know he did more special team stuff in the past. He's just a head coach that manages, puts players in the right situation to win. Players love playing for him. They buy into what he wants to do. And that's why they've been good for 11 years.
Dude, yeah, 100%. I agree everything what you said. And yeah, I had him lower, but I think it's just that recency bias and the fact that he had him at Super Bowls early on, and then they failed to make a playoff mark recently. But yeah, 100%, dude. The dude's a legend, and he's probably bound for the Hall of Fame.
All right, yeah. So I agree with all that. So 5, you did your 5, correct?
No, I'm ready for my 5. That's what I think. That's what we're ready for. So my 5 is Stefanski. That's where I have.
Okay.
Damn. Yeah, the fact that he was able to come in and I don't know. I just think changing cultures and changing organizations, programs, whatever term you want to use, that is a tough thing to do when an organization or a program or a team and a culture is so used to losing, and that's just the stigma of the team from the media, from the fans, from the world.
Yep,
that is not an easy thing to do. And you look at the history of the Browns coaches and their quarterbacks and everything. It's tough, and there's been some decent names come through, but you look at, and you said it, Freddie Kitchens, man, the team he had,
same team.
And look what Stefanski's doing. And he's got him now, in my opinion, on the doorstep of a Super Bowl. It is the Browns, Bills, or Chiefs. One of those teams is going to the Super Bowl from the AFC, in my opinion. And for him to do that for a team that's been snake bitten for decades, it feels like. And I know maybe it's being overstated or I'm overplaying it, but for me, that is just so huge. The fact that he turned that, he's the guy. He is finally the right guy, and for me, the top 5 consideration, and he deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, I love Stefanski, and great hire. Love what he's doing with the Browns. Let me ask you this, just since this is the LA Football Podcast. So everything you said about Stefanski, which is 100% true. But what about that one season, what he did, what he changed, makes him higher than Sean McVay, who did the exact same thing? The Rams for 20 years had been terrible, inherited a 4-12 team.
No.
Changed the culture.
Come on. You can't say that. It's different. Fisher, how long had Fisher been there before McVay took over?
But Spagnuolo was there. They hadn't won in like 20 years. Since the greatest show on turf.
Okay, I don't know. I feel, but they had success. Like they weren't. I don't know. I don't consider what McVay did the same thing what Stefanski did. He didn't take over this downtrodden organization. Like this was an organization that had a lot of money put behind it. They were in LA. They had a lot of marketing. They had a lot of they had a number 1 overall pick. And granted. They had, though. Fisher was successful there. He wasn't terrible the entire time. Like, Fisher was a bad...
Never playoffs. And the Browns had a number 1 overall pick in Baker Mayfield.
The Browns had a lot. Okay, I get it. I know. I get your argument.
Not wrong.
I know I'm not
curious.
wrong.
I'm not poking the bear here. I'm just poking the bear here.
No, and I get it. Like a lot of people are going to put McVay over Stefanski, and it's warranted. And probably I'm one of the few that would have it opposite. Yeah. But I just see what Stefanski has done with an organization that was in the garbage can, and yeah, a lot of that has to do with the GM putting that roster together. Mm-hmm. But just the fact that, and yeah, it is very similar. Fisher to McVay, Kitchens to Stefanski. But
throw out Kitchens. Just go Hugh Jackson to
okay, I mean, you can say that too. But I think Jeff Fisher is one hell of a coach. This isn't some scrub. Like, I think Jeff Fisher, granted, he did a lot of poor things with the Rams organization, and he made a lot of bad decisions toward the end of his tenure, and his firing, whatever happened to him, was very warranted and deserving. But I don't see the Rams in the same light that I see the Browns in when McVay took over and when Stefanski took over. I don't see. I get where you're making the comparison, but for me, it's different. I think McVay took a much better situation. I'm not saying he couldn't have done the same thing with the Browns roster that Stefanski had, but I don't know. For me, I think Stefanski is a little bit more of an up and comer. I think Stefanski overall is the better coach, and I think at the end of the day, Stefanski is going to be more successful than McVay is going to have in LA.
Okay, yeah, I respect it. Like I said, I love Stefanski, but I can't put him above McVay when he did great things, as you mentioned, change the culture, which is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
But when you inherit Baker Mayfield, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, OBJ, Jarvis Landry, a good offensive line, Myles Garrett, all these great defenders, like, you're going to have some success unless you're Freddie Kitchens. so obviously an upgrade. I have him 12, obviously a good coach. McVay did not, and we can argue culture inheritance or just roster inheritance. McVay did definitely not inherit as good of a roster as Stefanski did, and now he's had 4 straight winning seasons, and Stefanski, I think, will have many winning seasons and beyond. I think hopefully if we look back on this conversation 3 to 4 years from now, when some of these coaches who I think we have maybe above and below are probably retired, I think we'll be talking about McVay and Stefanski as top 3, top 4. Like,
that's
competing as the top 2 guys.
That's very plausible. 100%. I could see that happening. Yeah.
So, okay. So my 5, as I mentioned, was Sean Payton. I don't think I need to talk more about him. You had him 6, I had him 5, great career. Well, this will be the big test for him. We always see these great coaches that have these long tenures with quarterbacks, and then it's really to see their transition after. Because one guy I think of all the time too, because we think of modern guys, or not that Bill Belichick's modern, but we think of guys currently coaching. Bill Belichick, now Sean Payton, Mike McCarthy, when he obviously left and now he's in Dallas, and seeing if he can be considered a good coach again. But I think of Mike Shanahan, was you with Denver, like, did great things with John Elway, didn't do much after Elway retired. And you can blame the GM on that, whether he got a quarterback. He had Jake Plummer, he had some guys, and really didn't have the same kind of success. Still had a couple playoff years, still built some good rosters. But so we'll see how Sean Payton now life is without Drew Brees, and if they're able to make that team a contender year in and year out, like they've been for the last decade, if you will. Well, not even decade. They had some years where they went 7-9, but for the last, good little bit. So we'll see what he does. This top 5 list is brought to you by Manscaped. Coach, are you familiar with Manscaped? I think you are, right?
I am 100%, of course.
Yeah. Men's grooming, the best in men's grooming. The new Lawnmower 4.0. You got to check it out. I'm one of the first to test it out. It just literally just came out. This thing came out like weeks ago. LED light for precision guidance. It's got obviously the mass protocol so that you won't cut yourself, as glorious as that is. And the biggest thing, sorry, I got like this gnat flying around in here. It's driving me crazy. I don't know if you keep seeing me waving, but yeah, this gnat. So I'm getting off topic, but I'm just, I'm going to do it. Last night I'm recording something else, and I had my cup of coffee next to me, go to drink it, gnat in my coffee, dead gnat. Are you kidding me? Get up, pause, dump it out, pour a new cup of coffee, sitting here doing the same thing. 5 minutes. This is in a 5 minute span. Go to grab my cup of coffee again. Another dead gnat. I'm like, where are these guys coming from? So I see this guy. I got my Garrison Bros whiskey right here. I'm making sure this little effer isn't getting in here. That's what's driving me crazy. Anyway, Manscaped, waterproof. Here's the biggest thing that is the best detail about this device. Now you can shave in the shower. No mess. Don't got to shave over the toilet, over the linoleum flooring. Got to sweep it up. You're in the shower, grooming, done. Get out. You're clean. You're looking fresh. You're looking young. Manscaped. Head to manscaped.com. Use my promo code LAFB20 for 20% off and free shipping. Once again, that's manscaped.com. Use my promo code LAFB20. Gets you 20% off and worldwide free shipping. That alone is going to save you a lot of money. So, Coach, you better, when we sign off here, I better see you order one.
I'm probably going to with the wedding coming up. I need to.
The wife's letting you keep the hair on the head, but not the hair down below.
Yeah, there's a compromise there.
You gotta, yeah. Which head is, yeah. The top head, you can keep the hair. Down below, let's trim that up. Manscaped.com, LAFB20. There you go. All right, top 5. I guess we're technically in top 4 here. Who you got it for?
So my 4 is John Harbaugh with the Ravens. An Andy Reid disciple. He came from his tree, but man, I think he's the second longest tenured coach in the NFL behind Andy Reid at this point. Or no, Belichick, I guess. Third. Yeah, behind Reid and Belichick. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know why I always forget Belichick, but I feel like he's just on a tier of his own. But Harbaugh definitely. The fact that he's just the continued success. And the team that he started with is not the team that he has now. And he took a team to a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. Granted, he had a lot of good defensive guys and a lot of good defensive Hall of Famers on that team.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, for him to find success, and not only, here's the thing with Harbaugh, he's made the playoffs and won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, and now he's doing it with Lamar Jackson. Talk about polar opposite quarterbacks. Yeah. And for you to be able to adjust and come up with schemes and playbooks and game plans for those quarterbacks and how different they are, and to find success doing it, says a lot about Harbaugh. So yeah, man, I am thrilled to death that he's still in the league, and I think he's a great advocate for coaching, and I think he's a great role model for young coaches, and I know there's a lot of detractors against Lamar Jackson, but man, Harbaugh is one of those guys that as long as he's around, I think Baltimore's going to be a winner.
I love John Harbaugh. Before I get to him real quick, my 4, as I mentioned, was Sean McVay. So we talked about him a bunch. I think he's top 4 right now. I think he can become top 1, 2, 3 here in the next few years if he can keep his consistency up. And obviously, if you see the guys that we're going to get to in a minute probably retire here soon. Yeah, we talked a lot extensively about it. So love Sean McVay. He's my 4. John Harbaugh is my 3. Again, I think he's in his 14th or 15th year with Baltimore. Like you mentioned, the 3rd most tenured coach. When Baltimore, I think it was last offseason, was considering like moving on from him, I thought that would be the dumbest mistake. So much, it's not even the NFL, it's just culture in general. It's like when you get this consistent thing. So like the Ravens literally make the playoffs every year, or at least they're competitive every year. Maybe they're not in the playoffs every year, but they're like either in the playoffs or they're like in week 16, 17, now going to be freaking 18. They're like competing for a playoff spot, whether they make it or not. And it's like we get in this way in life, and the NFL is no different, where that becomes, they're doing the same thing over and over again. We need to switch it up and change it up. Sometimes sometimes you don't need to do that. We've seen teams do that and then just take a huge dump and completely falter backwards. And you realize, man, we had it so good with that guy, and we tried to change it all up. That's why John Harbaugh got re-signed, got rehired up, why he's a top 3 coach in the NFL, in my opinion. He's a true head coach. He was a special team guy under Andy Reid in Philadelphia, like you mentioned. I think we talked one night over drinks about that Andy Reid coaching tree from Philadelphia back in the day is unbelievable. If you guys listening, look up the was it what was it, the 90?
I feel like it was 99.
99 season or whatever. The coaches that came out of that team, they're all in the league. It's unreal. At one point or another, he had, crazy. But John Harbaugh was one of those as a special team guy. Been with the Ravens ever since. Gone through multiple D coordinators, multiple offensive coordinators. Obviously, we talked about the quarterback change from Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson, just completely different. Totally different defensive overhauls, going from Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs. Now they have different guys in there. Ed Reed, but now have different guys in there. So it's a model of consistency. And he's been one of the top guys and plays in the smash mouth AFC North and character guy, high quality guy. I love John Harbaugh. So yeah, he's my 3.
Yeah. And I, my number 3 is probably very controversial. And, I have Sean McDermott.
I'm surprised you have that high.
Yeah, well, the fact that I think obviously with Stefanski being ranked as high as I have him, I think I just put in a lot of weight to what those guys did culturally, and you look at the Browns and the Bills; they were the laughingstock of the '90s and for the bulk of the 2000s, and nobody could come in and win with the Bills, and they struggled to beat the Patriots. And granted, McDermott caught the very tail end of Brady's tenure, but man, he's been there I think 4 years, and he's made 3 playoffs. And he had him 1 game away from the Super Bowl. 2? Is it 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
His first 2 seasons were losing seasons. His last 2 have been
for
playoffs.
McDermott.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was different, but anyway. But yeah, he had him.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. Sorry, his first year. He was there a year before they drafted Allen, so his first year was Tyrod Taylor, and they did actually make the playoffs when Jacksonville blew it or whatever that one. Yeah. So yes, you're right.
Right. So and now he's got him back to back, and like I said, he was the doorstep of the Super Bowl, and they lost to the Chiefs. But man, and Josh Allen is a really good quarterback. He's got a great relationship with Bean, the GM, and they're doing good things, and they've built a great roster. They got Stephon Diggs. They have an incredible defense. That defensive rotation they have in their front 7 is deep and talented. They got one of the best cornerbacks, Tre'Davious White. They're just a really good roster, and McDermott is the guy to lead them. This is a guy where I think, and you look down the road when all these guys were dead, this is probably going to be the best coach in the league. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be. When you look at the quarterback situation, you look at the line situation, and you look at those young defensive starts that they got at every single level, this team's going to be good for a long time.
Yeah. No, I love Sean McDermott. I had him at 10. Like I said, they've stuck with the consistency that he's built, the great defensive mind that he is. He just seems like a fiery guy on the sidelines. But again, I have to ask you, this is the LA Football Podcast. So what is it? And I'm not calling you out. I guess I kind of am, but I more so just want the reasoning. What it is about McDermott that has you put him at 3 over McVay at 8? Because again, they were the same coaching class. They were hired the same years. Mm-hmm. McVay's been to more playoffs, more wins, been to a Super Bowl. What is it about McDermott you like better?
I think probably just potential, and this, I guess I shouldn't be a knock on McVay. But for me, I guess for McDermott, he has a little bit better situation. He has better quarterback. He has better receivers. He has better offensive line weapons. For me, I think he's just got a better situation. So I guess I took that into consideration with my rankings, not necessarily just who's the best coach. I maybe took in weighted consideration with how successful are they set up to be. And for me, McDermott and Stefanski are set up for success for a very long time. And again, if we're just going strictly coach rankings, I would probably look at this a little bit different, but I took in a wide variety of things. And for me, McDermott, just the situation he has in front of him, again, I just don't see a lot of reasons where he's going to fail.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. I mean, the Bills are definitely set up for success for many, many years.
Yeah.
I think the Rams can be too. Obviously, we know their draft situation, but the way that they are able to draft the mid-rounds, and if they can just keep recouping that, and if Matthew Stafford can still give them 7 elite seasons, hopefully we'll see a Rams-Bills Super Bowl or a Rams-Browns Super Bowl.
It's not that far-fetched. I mean, that could happen in a few months. Like that could be what we see in SoFi.
I mean, those will definitely be contenders this season. Rams, Bills, and Browns will all be contenders.
100%. Yeah.
Which is crazy to think 5 years ago.
It really is. It is.
I mean, the Rams have been good now for 4 years, but to have the Bills and Browns as like legit contenders, it's just strange.
It is.
Okay, that was your 3?
That was my 3, yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming, obviously, we have the same 2. We'll see the order. Who's your 2?
Belichick and Reed.
Yeah.
Reed's 1, Belichick's 2.
I have the same. I have Belichick 2, Reed 1. I'll start, I guess.
Who's your 3?
John Harbaugh.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we got to order a little bit because then I talked about McVay for a while, and so
that's right.
So I have Belichick 2, and what's strange about Belichick is I feel like a year ago it would have been hard to anyone question him being 1. Like, he was the greatest coach of all time.
Yeah.
Then we see Brady leave, and there was a lot of other things happen too. They had a lot of opt-outs. Patrick Chung.
Dante Hightower.
They had a lot of opt-outs on defense, but still, it's like, a lot of teams had injuries. I mean, everyone had to deal with stuff. We say all the time, everyone deals with shit. It's no excuse. If anything, the Patriots have gotten away with a lot their entire tenure at coach. So this was the 1 year. Okay, cool. Now you guys have to feel what the rest of the league feels. Still a great coach. I mean, he's one of those guys that the little things, he's a mastermind. Like when you see little special teams things that they like take a delay of game in order. Like I saw Mike Rabel did something last year that he learned from Belichick, like taking a delay of game instead of rushing a punt. You move. I'm trying to think of the exact situation, but just little things where you're like, wow, that's like the genius of a coach come out. That's what Belichick has. Obviously, 6 Super Bowls in his tenure, the one of the best sports dynasties ever. But I just have him at 2 because we saw them fall apart once Brady left. And we'll see this year how much better they get, but they spent a lot in free agency. They drafted a QB that basically plays like Brady. I don't think Cam Newton's definitely not like the guy there. I don't know how much he'll play this year. I've heard Mac Jones has struggled a lot so far, but again, OTA reporting is the dumbest thing ever because it's June. Like, it's just silly to report and freak out about OTAs. So, yeah, that's why I'm at 2. I'll talk about Reed in a minute, but I'll let you comment on Belichick first.
Yeah, a lot of the same sentiments. It is strange to think that just a year removed from like the non-question, it's Belichick and then everybody else. Yeah. It is very strange to think, well, yeah. But anyway, yeah, he's everything he's done.
Let me ask you this before you even go.
Yeah.
If the Patriots this year, not even make it back to the Super Bowl, but let's say you go to the AFC Championship game, do we now put him back? I mean, he dropped a 2, not like a huge slide, but if he beats the Chiefs in the playoffs and moves either in the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game, then do we say, okay, now he proved he could do it without Brady?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah. I think 2020 is the reason why he's number 2.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason he's number 2.
Yeah.
You take that away and he's number 1. Yeah. But yeah, it just obviously that was leading into 2020. That was what everybody was wondering. Is it Tom Brady or is it Belichick? Who is it? Well, obviously it really seems like it was Tom Brady.
And I'll be the first to say I, for years, said it was Bill Belichick.
Well, I think a lot of people do.
I mean, 1 year is hard to judge the whole thing on. It still might be a lot of factors, but
it's not like Tom Brady walked into a terrible spot.
No.
Right? But yeah, again, Belichick is a hell of a coach. We got him at number 2. He's got more Super Bowls than any coach has ever been on the sidelines. He's done it mostly as a GM as well. And so clearly the guy knows what he's doing, and he's best friends with Nick Saban. He's just one of the best football minds we've ever seen. Yeah. So yeah, I just think it's that 2020 non-playoff. They didn't win the division for the first time in God knows, however many years. But all this, it feels like I just don't know if his name is enough to be the number 1 coach in the NFL right now. I just don't think he is.
Yeah, right now, currently, and this has to be stated too. He's a terrible drafter. Like he's
Well, yeah, he didn't have a great record of that.
He's a very bad drafter. It's funny. No one ever talked about that ever until last season. Once Brady left, and all of a sudden it came out like, oh yeah, they haven't drafted a Pro Bowler in 15 years or something. Like his draft record is just awful who he takes. And, but they got away with it because they add, I mean, the way the Patriots work, everyone knows like their system, people got to buy into it. They have a certain skill set, exactly what they want that fits their exact mold. Same thing. He's had pretty much the same coordinators, mostly. Obviously lost Brian Flores, lost Joe Judge just recently, but Josh McDaniels has been there forever, left and came back. So, yeah, I mean, he's 2 right now. Well, okay. We'll see. I feel like we might I don't know. Let's keep the conversation going because I'm trying to. This is what I think about him, but as I think more about it, I'm like, how can I really have him 2? Andy Reid at 1. We both have him there.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing offensive mind. His coaching tree is 1,000 times better than Bill Belichick, which is probably why I have him 1. But 1 Super Bowl to 6. I'll let you go first. Why do you have Reid above Belichick right now?
Man, look, for me, I just feel like Reid is at the top of his game right now. Belichick is not at the top of his game. Reid's, and it's arguable, is Reid's.
Perfect. Let me start right there because that's perfect. Sure. This is not all-time coaches. This is the NFL right now.
Yeah, 100%. Going into 2021, who do we think are the best?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's Reid. He's been to 2 straight, and I know Belichick has been to however many he's been to, but Reid, when you look at his play calling, and yeah, he's shared that with coordinators over his tenure with the Chiefs and the Eagles, but he's done it with different people. He's done it with different staffs. He's done it with different personnel. He went there with McNabb with the Eagles and Deuce Staley and those guys, and then he's had continued success. They were always competing for the NFC East. And then he took over the Chiefs when he lost his job with the Eagles. They kind of stole him away from, I think it was the Chargers that he was even going to even meet with. But cool. And then he did it with Alex Smith, made the Chiefs a perennial playoff contender. And then you get Patrick Mahomes, and obviously one of the best offenses that has ever set foot on a football field. And man, it just seems like Andy Reid can do it with almost any type of quarterback because Donovan McNabb is a lot different than Patrick Mahomes, and Alex Smith is much different than both of those guys. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter. His offense has always put up a lot of points. So obviously it's not, it doesn't matter who the Jimmies and Joes are. Andy Reid can get the most out of who those guys are. And I think that's the focal point. Even though his offensive mentality and his schemes and his concepts and motions and all that are second to none, I think what really the genius in his coaching is his relationship with the players and how that the fact that, everybody talks about getting players to run through the brick wall for you. The secret to get a player to run through a brick wall for you, they got to believe that you're running through it with them. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what Andy Reid does. Every single player on that field feels like Andy Reid is taking a step right next to him. So, and somehow he does that. And Bill Belichick, X's and O's wise, and just, being able to break down stuff probably better than Reid. But overall, in terms of player relationships and just overall demeanor, I think Andy Reid is number 1, and I don't think there's anybody else on the tier with him at this point.
Yeah, everything you said is correct. I when I ultimately came down to it, I said, if I'm stuck on an island with a pina colada, who would I rather be stuck with? Andy Reid or Bill Belichick? And then my decision was pretty easy from there.
There you go.
Obviously, Mr. Tommy Bahama himself, Big Red. Yeah, you said it all. I don't need to touch on it more. Andy Reid, it's weird to put him above a guy that, yeah, like I said, has won 6 Super Bowls, has been a part of the greatest dynasty in sports we've probably seen maybe ever, especially in football, for sure. In that 20-year span. But I think the fact that we've seen Reed do it between two organizations with multiple different quarterbacks, with numerous offensive coordinators, whereas again, Belichick's like had Josh McDaniels almost his entire tenure there, like off and on kind of thing. He's had a few different guys here and there, but for the most part, had the same guy. And that's not a knock on Belichick, but it's just saying what Reed brings, people adapt to him, or he adapts to them, if you will. And again, talking right now, looking at the Chiefs right now and what Reed has built with his offense, it's much, it's a much better proposition than what's in New England right now, and what Belichick's done with his defense, or what, and that could change very quickly because they were very spendy in free agency, and we'll see if they get back to the Patriots that we know for the last 20 years, or if they're not. But let me ask you this real quick about Reed.
Mm-hmm.
We always talk about the Shanahan offense, the McVay offense, the LaFleur, which is all kind of the same. Mike Shanahan is what started that like offensive tree. Why is there not the Reed offense? I mean, the guy's been around for 40 plus years. He's got so many guy coordinators that have become head coaches off and on. Why do you not think that we have this Reed offense we know about? Everyone just talks about the Shanahan offense.
Because there is no Reed offense. Reed's offense is dedicated to whatever players he has in front of him.
Beautiful.
And I think that's the answer you were looking for.
Yep. No, that's exactly what I just wanted you to say it. Because his offense in Philly with Don McNabb, especially when T.O. came, was very different than what we're seeing with Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and 100% different, completely different.
Yeah, so. Very. And Reed is, of course, I'm a little biased, but he's special. He's a special guy.
You are biased. Last thing about Reed, and then I want to talk about Brandon Staley for a second.
Yeah.
Just so we hit on some Charger stuff. A few years ago, I didn't have this conversation with you, but I have some other Chiefs buddies. And, when they had Alex Smith, you guys were always good. Chiefs were always good, competitive, but could never get over the hump. And there was talks with my buddies, but there's also talks in the media. Was it Alex Smith, or was it time to move on from Andy Reid and, start again? When I was talking with John Harbaugh, like, okay, yeah, we're good, but we're not getting over the hump. Maybe we needed this fresh new mind, change things up. Were you ever at that point? And I'm not talking about your fan here or anything, but just football wise, but is ever that point where you're like, yeah, maybe Andy Reid, has lived out his tenure in the NFL, or was it like, no, he just doesn't have the quarterback to get him over the hump?
That thought never crossed my mind. Not once. And I'm being 100% honest. No. Because I feel like the Chiefs could have won a Super Bowl with Alex Smith. They could have. They just.
Because Andy Reid, let me remind you, Andy Reid had a few, time clock management blunders. Had many.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing against him, was his time management, especially late in the game. But I just, I think the biggest transition from Smith to Mahomes was the fearlessness factor. Mahomes is fearless. Yeah. Smith isn't. Yeah. And Reed, as good as he is, he can't make a quarterback be fearless. He can't make a quarterback say, I can make this throw. Yeah. Mahomes has a mentality, Smith doesn't. Both really good quarterbacks. Mahomes just has that X factor.
Yeah. I mean, i.e. McVay, Goff, McVay, Stafford, what we're going to see hopefully here in LA. So, obviously the Chiefs were right, but I had legit friends saying, nope, we need to move on from Andy Reid.
I have friends that are Chiefs fans that wanted to draft Geno Smith number 1 overall too. So just because you're a Chiefs fan doesn't mean you're an expert.
Well, just because you're a fan, period.
Fan of any team, yeah.
Because that happens year in and year out for every team.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up with this. If we're doing a whole coaching rankings, obviously new coaches, I don't like putting in there until, because they haven't coached at all. It's kind of like how I felt we did our quarterback rankings, and I said from the beginning, like, I honestly put rookie quarterbacks at the very end, just because I don't like to rank them because it's just based on prediction and guessing.
Mm-hmm.
But from what you know so far about Brandon Staley, I've talked a ton about him, so I can talk more about him, but I just want to hear from you. And I don't know how much you really have followed him, but how much do you see him really taking the league by storm early on in his first season, or do you think he's going to have a lot of growing pains?
I don't see him finding immediate success, and that just and again, I know very little about Brandon Staley. I'm just going off of what I know of him, and what I know of him is he was with Vic Fangio, who was a great defensive mind. So he learned a lot from him. He landed a DC job with the best defensive player in the league, and Aaron Donald. That's not saying an NFL defensive coordinator job is easy, but being a DC, it helps to have Aaron Donald. when he's taking up 2-3 guys, it's pretty easy to game plan every week. How long? That's 2 years, right? Or he spent 1 year with the Rams as DC, and before that, he was with Fangio the whole time.
Yep, linebacker coach with Fangio, and
I'm just not sure he's really proven enough to be the head. He's obviously a really good interviewer. There's obviously stuff that people like about him, but just based off of what I know, it's not much. I just don't see. How the trajectory is promising for him to be successful right off the bat.
So from what you do know, out of the new hires, would you rank him towards the bottom, middle, or top?
Just out of the new hires?
Just out of the new hires. So what is there, 6 new hires, I think?
I mean, somewhere middle of the road, yeah. I mean, Saleh, I think, is up there. He's better than Meyer. I think Urban Meyer is going to crash and burn. But,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't really even – I think he's better than the Falcons hire. He's better than –
Yeah, Arthur Smith. You have Coley down in Houston, who I really don't know.
I was going to say he's better than that. So he's probably – I mean, out of new hires, 3 or 4, middle of the road. But, he's not he's better than some of the other choices there were. So, and he's got a good roster. He's got Joey Bosa. He's got Justin Herbert. He's got a good offense. It's not like they're going to be terrible. He's got good guys. So I think he's going to be successful, but I don't think he's going to be this new, I don't think he's going to take the world by storm.
Okay. All right. I value your opinion. Brewery X Factor. Make sure to check them out down in Anaheim, the La Palma Beer Trail, right by Angel Stadium and Honda Center if you're in Orange County, right off the 57 freeway. 30 beers on tap, 10 hard seltzers. Brewery X. But I think Brandon Staley is going to take the world by storm. I really do. This dude, being on Zoom calls, hearing him talk, seeing what he did in one short year, taking the Rams from like 17th defense to first, his acumen, the way the players respond to him. I mean, you hear these guys talk about the guy, and this is going back to when he was at the Rams as a D coordinator. The guys just gush about him, like saying, Jalen Ramsey saying, this is the smartest coach I've ever played for. This guy knows his shit. Like, he's smart. And the way he moves his schemes and does this, and the staff he's built with the Chargers. Maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe because I cover these teams and I want them to be good. But coach, I think Brandon Staley, when we're having this conversation in a year, it's going to be like that Kevin Stefanski conversation. Like, it's only 1 year, but how high can we put this guy? Because I think that's how good he's going to be. Changing a culture, a Chargers culture has been known as a losing culture for a long time. Yes, they had the year in 2018, but aside from that, losing games late, injuries, poor clock management. And I think after 1 year of Staley, even if their record, let's say they go 7-10. I always forget the math here because now we got the 17th game. Even if they go 7-10, 8-9, I just think we'll see so much improvement in all the little things that it's like, wow, there's a lot of excitement on that team. I think personally they're going to be a playoff team. I've said that many times. It's my hot take. But yeah, coach, I think he's going to be the new hot coach. When we do this next year, this time, I'm going to be excited to see where you rank Brandon Staley.
I'm eager to see. I don't know that being a head coach is much different than being a coordinator, and it's just you don't do the same job. It's not the same job, and some people aren't fit for both jobs. And Staley might be if he has all if he's great, personality wise and get players to buy in, then absolutely he's going to be a good head coach. But
and again, this is why I obviously. You can call it bias, but I think it's just that I have, and I'm not saying this like to toot my horn or whatever, but when you cover a guy, follow a guy, when you talk to a guy, when you're in Zoom calls, when you hear all this, you can get things aside from just like, reading an article or this.
Sure.
So this is why I think Staley will be just his leadership, how he, talks to these little things. Obviously, he has the X and his O's. He's a great defensive coordinator, but the little things, I think he's going to be a phenomenal head coach. Whereas someone like Robert Saleh or Arthur Smith, I'm actually more questionable on. But again, I don't know them that way. I know Brandon Staley a lot more. I don't know Arthur Smith or Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh has a much better resume, what he did in San Francisco. Arthur Smith, had a great resume in Tennessee, what he did with Ryan Tannehill. But from just what I know, I'm like, well, what you're saying, being a coordinator, being a head coach is completely different. Robert Saleh forgot he needed to break down the huddle. And obviously that's kind of a joke kind of thing. Like, it's not a big deal, but I think Brandon Staley is going to be the best of the lot for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's high praise, and yeah, you definitely know Staley a lot better than I do. But I do, when it comes down to it, I just think you have to show you can be successful for a long time. I don't know. I'm not a big believer in one-year coordinators being given a head coaching job. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But
I feel that.
Yeah. I want you to stick around. How good are you beyond 1 year? How good can you be? Not good. How good were you that one time? How good are you? How good can you be? Give me some more time. Had he been a defensive coordinator for 3-4 years, okay, let's. But dude, he was a linebacker coach 2 years ago.
Yeah,
it's and I know there are rare guys that can overcome all that. He might be one of those, but I'm just it's the best way I can describe it is how you feel about those rookie quarterbacks. Yeah. That's how I feel about these first year head coaches. But how do you know? We don't know. We know that he was a damn good defensive coordinator with the best defensive player in the NFL. And granted, I'm sure he coached good. He had good players in Denver, and he learned from Vic Fangio, and he's learned under some really good defensive minds. But come on, now, again, if he's good this year, then absolutely, I'll jump on the train. But I have to see it first. I have to see it first.
Yeah, no, as you should, absolutely. So I mean, that's the thing about it. That's why I'm probably more harsh on rookie quarterbacks than I am on rookie head coaches. I don't know why, but I'm like. We had that conversation 3 episodes ago. I'm like, I'm not putting a rookie quarterback above veteran. I won't do it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I feel the very same way about the coaches.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. So, well, let's wrap this up. Another great conversation, as always, with the coach. I'm glad we're doing this more. This is fun having you back.
It is fun. It feels like I said, it's been gone too long. It feels like home.
It feels like home. Yeah, with the headband and everything. Different home, but with the headband.
Right.
So where can everyone find you at?
So I am primarily on Twitter at CoachGraph34.
There you go. Follow the coach. LA fans, he does primarily Chief stuff, but he'll retweet our podcast and every now and then maybe post a New Girl tweet or throw in some good TV acumen or maybe if we're lucky do an LA football thing, talking trash on Sean McVay. I don't know. So you guys can all talk on that.
Yeah. But, I'm a big McVay detractor. I have him at number 8 in the league. I hate him.
Yeah. Hate him. Hate the guy. It's funny is people will take that as you hate him.
Oh, I know.
Like they'll hate. They're like, you hate them. What is he doing? I know you don't.
No, I don't. I like him a lot, actually.
Yeah. He should be above McDermott and Stefanski, but hey, we've talked enough about that. We'll talk more off air. Anyway, you can follow me at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. Thank you all for listening. This is the LA Football Podcast. We are on the LA Football Network. Make sure to check out LAFBnetwork.com for all your digital content needs, articles on Chargers, Rams. Don't forget your Trojans and Bruins. We got multiple podcasts, 7 actually, across the entire network. So make sure to check that out. Go to YouTube at LAFB Network. Subscribe, hit the bell so you get those subscription notifications. And a huge shout out to I'm not even going to call them sponsors, our friends, Brewery X, Garrison Brothers, and Manscaped. Love working with people that we enjoy. So make sure to check them out. Check out their products, but appreciate you all. Subscribe, listen. This is the LA Football Podcast. Talk to you guys.